Can you roll for this one? Are we chomping? You're left when you're facing.
He's a rookie.
Oh yeah, don't stop at the step. The paper. So Pastor Matt.
Yes.
Can you remember what it was like when you first encountered Jesus and how your whole life changed?
Yeah, actually I can. So I grew up in church, Baptist church, great people, great sermons. My dad was a great pastor, but I encountered Jesus at summer camp, Camp Alta.
Wow.
It was Thursday night, decision night, and we were all around the campfire. And I kid you not, the fire raised as the wind blew. And I mean, just like in Acts, the book of Acts, man, I mean, the Holy Spirit came down and I heard Jesus, actually before I gave my life to Christ, I heard him call me into ministry. I was 15 years old. And that was the first time where my faith was no longer what my parents were saying, but it was something that I heard. I was 15 and a half years old at summer camp. And then the next time was after I failed in college morally. My life just unraveled. I had not lived out what I knew Jesus had called me to. And I remember specifically sitting at Harvest Christian Fellowship and Greg Laurie speaking, and every word was to me. And I was there with a girl, not my wife, and I got up to respond to the invitation, and she put her hand on my knee, and she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm gonna go forward." She said, "If you do, we're done."
Dang.
And I said, "Well, I guess we're done." And I mean, we've never spoken again.
Wow.
And that was the real change in my life. So I think that at 15, it was this call to something I didn't understand. When I was 21, it was very clear. Like the Lord had set me apart, and I was no longer to just live for myself in terms of, drugs, alcohol, or sex. I was God's. And it took me a while to figure that out, but I knew in that moment, that whole "be holy as I am holy," I knew in that moment I had a picture of what it was to be set apart. So what about you? When have you encountered Jesus?
Yeah, the first time that radically changed my life was 21. You mentioned 21.
Yeah.
It was for me that year. I was in college, almost done with my degree. And through just like a mild season of, I think, like depression, just not sure what to do with my life. Like, what am I gonna do? I'm a business major. I have friends. Why am I sad? The view of the world was work hard in the week,
right,
and then have a good time on the weekend.
Right.
And I felt like that was such a small, pathetic way of viewing life. One of my closest friends became a Christian through his own kind of journey and difficult season of life. And so that really left an impression on me, because I'd known him my whole life. He went to the public school, I went to the Christian private school, and now he's following Jesus. And so, through his relationship, I didn't know her then, but my wife now, she had been praying for me that I would come to Jesus. And through a sermon one night at Harvest, same church, just felt convicted and stirred. And I felt like I heard a word that I couldn't get off me. Like you think of the sci-fi movies where this creature's on you. I just felt like I had this thing on me. And I remember I went home to my room, I had a love sack in the room.
Yeah, you did.
I just, I plopped down, and I just felt the weight of running from God my whole life. And I repented, the first time I repented of sin and felt like a comforting presence of Christ. And the next day I went and found my old high school Bible, because I went to a Christian school, and just started devouring everything that I could remember. And from that moment on, it just changed. Over time, I felt like, I wanted to do this for the rest of my life, not just follow Jesus, but help other people do it too, and it was a profound moment. It was a profound moment,
And I'm grateful.
Yeah, so am I. And honestly, it's kind of it's one of the main reasons why we wanted to do this series, Encountering Jesus, because I'm regularly baffled at how people approach him with a crisis, with a concern, with a question, and his response always gets me. Even to this day, as I read through the Gospels, I think we can easily overlook the way that Jesus responded to people when they encountered him. And so this series really is about encountering him in a way that can transform us, but encountering him in a way in which he surprises us with what he says, because maybe he tells us no, or his answer is not what we were expecting, or he does a miracle. We're going to be in the Gospel of John, where he does these signs, which are profound and like mind-blowing, but they ultimately point to something. They're a sign, right? And so oftentimes what he's saying and what he's doing connect. And so I'm excited for this series because I feel like it'll allow us to encounter Jesus, because I think our world today needs supernatural, divine moments with God, where things change, where they wrestle with what he's doing in their soul, what he's maybe saying to them through the word, you know. And so the Gospel of John is just rich with these signs and encounters, you know.
Well, and I would say this, I need this series because I don't just want to talk about this experience with Jesus I had in the past. Like I want just, you know, like in all my relationships that matter, I don't want something that was, I want something that is.
Wow.
And so I'm looking forward to encountering, you know, Jesus through you and through your lens as you teach through the Gospel of John. And so I think that we all need that. No matter how many times I go over those stories, something fresh every time for me.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, because I think, you know, some of these stories, I chose stories that are specifically familiar, but also like, what do we do with that?
Yeah.
So we're gonna look at the wedding at Cana, his first miracle. He turned water to wine. What does that mean? We're gonna look at the feeding of the 5,000, where he said he's the bread of life, but they're ready to make him king, and he says no. Like, what do we do with that?
Right.
You know, or he says, I'm the gate. Like, what?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
You know. And so we're looking for these moments where people had an encounter with God, not just kind of in a sacred space like church, but what does it mean to encounter Jesus, like you said, right now, in a way that is in my actual life, in the actual world, with my real issues, you know? And so I think encountering him has everything to do with our finances, the way we're raising our families, the way we're trying to navigate culture today. Like, we need these encounters. And so we're gonna look at places, like I said, that people maybe kind of know, like they've heard of that story, like, oh yeah, Jesus multiplied fish and bread, or he made wine. That's wild. I kind of like a Jesus that makes wine, you know. But what does that mean, you know? And what is Jesus inviting us into in that? So,
Man, that's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.